Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We appreciate the support. Please be sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. It helps us to come back each and every week with amazing musicians. Like today, we're sitting down with Kouvaris. He's the lead singer of Quiet Like a Thief. The band formed in late 2019, and they spent 2020 navigating the pandemic and also the death of Alex's dad, who passed away from complications due to COVID. Now, Alex turned it into a bit of a positive, writing a song and shooting a video in honor of his dad. It was an emotional journey and also very inspiring. So please enjoy our conversation with Kouvaris of Quiet Like a Thief. How are things? You guys just dropped a new song.
We did. It's titled Windowpane, and so far so good. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. It's been featured on numerous musical websites, and then just other people that are finding the song for the first time online. You know, they've been digging the track and adding it, so it's been great, and we're definitely happy about it.
Yeah, it's got to feel pretty good as a new band, right? Only having a couple of songs out and getting that traction right off the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with Ryan and I's past experience with bands, especially with Ryan, he has a solid music business background. I think just the two of us really went hard right at the bat. We made sure that we were everywhere, and we took advantage of all and any outlet that was, you know, available to us. And I think that really helped us grow the fan base we have now, new and existing fans from old bands. But I think it paid off. And now we're starting to see retention and people keeping up with new releases and commenting. And it's been great. It's been really good.
Nice. And when did you and Ryan come together? Have you guys known each other for a while?
Yeah, we actually met in, I believe it was 2014, and it was through Craigslist actually. I
Okay.
posted, yeah, when it wasn't so sketchy. Um, yeah, uh, I posted an ad on Craigslist, and at the time, I was a drummer. I was playing drums anyway, and I said, looking for a band, pop punk. These are my influences. I listed my experience and what I was looking for. And not too long after, I'd say about a week after, I heard from the band Boundary Lines, and Ryan was in it. He was the bass player, and ever since we've been great friends. We have the same goals, we have the same mindset, same vision. We know what we want, and we've always just been on the same level. And I think it really just works, and we're always on the same page. And he'll say something or sing something out, whether it's a drum part or guitar part, and I know what he means, and vice versa. So it's been good, and it's working for Quiet Like a Thief.
Yeah. And when did Quiet Like a Thief come into fruition? Because you guys really sort of formed sort of in 2020, right?
Yeah, the end of 19, and I mean, realistically, coming out as an official piece and having product to just go right away with live, I would say 2020. But the you know I'm a drummer by trade, but I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to go out of my comfort zone. And I've always liked the idea of fronting a band, and I always have these melodies and these vocal ideas. And I don't know, I just liked the idea, and I took up the challenge, and I kind of impressed myself. I wasn't really sure how it was going to work out, but I think the more I've been singing and the more songs I've been writing and recording, I'm just getting better and better. Um, but I've always had these demos, and Quiet Like a Thief was always like a baby, my baby, and it didn't ever get to that next step because I was lacking something. And finally I said, you know what? And I hit up Ryan. I said, listen, we know what we want. We all play instruments. Like we can do this, just the two of us. Let's finally do what we've been wanting, dreaming to do and longing for. And let's just do it. Let's do it. And he was completely on board. And unfortunately, the spark kind of started with my dad passing away, but it was really him that made this a thing. When my dad passed, he said, man, we really should do a song and a video for your dad if you're up for it. And I said, yeah, man. I said, you're absolutely right. I said, that couldn't have been a better idea. And here we are. So
Yeah, and before we get too much into that, let's introduce your dad, because there's people out there who will probably know him as the original guitarist of Riot.
So yeah, Louis A. Kouvaris, uh, known as L.A. Kouvaris or L.A. Rocks. He was born in Greece, moved to New York with his family, and was playing the axe, playing the guitar ever since he was a kid. Loved the idea of being a musician. Super talented guitarist and individual. And living in Queens, he was in gigging bands and being so talented as he was. And back then, just talent was recognized as talent. That was all it was back then. Um, his name started getting around, and he was in a couple of uh, successful local bands and like out of New York in the tri-state area, and eventually landed the gig with Riot. And from there, they just blew up, and he toured with some significant acts, including Journey, a band called Lions. He was a very personable guy too, so I think everyone liked him, and he was just like I said. I can't stress it enough how talented he was. So that really got him to where he was, and the band blew up. I mean, he was huge, and they still are in Japan, Europe, Australia even. And obviously the United States. But I really think Japan and like Germany and Greece, those were like hot spots for Riot.
Right. And when you came along, when you were born, he was more on the producing side of things, right?
He was. He he took a break, started a family. I came along, and kind of to keep up with his chops, he was doing cover gigging bands and recording engineering. And he had a recording studio in the basement of his house. So he was always involved with music. I think he stepped away from the spotlight for a while, having me, and then working full time in sales. And um, you know, he put that on the back burner. But before he passed, he was getting that second chance with Riot Act.
And so when you were born, since he was sort of away from the music, was music still a big part of his life and therefore a big part of your life from a really early age?
Yes, as early as I can remember, my dad had a guitar, or there was a guitar in the room, or he was something was going on that had to do with music. And I obviously grew up with a lot of classic rock, like the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Kiss, Doobie Brothers, um, Led Zeppelin, and he definitely exposed me to it. So he's certainly responsible for my music backgrounds, but never forced me. Never forced me. And one day I was about 4 or 5 years old, and they were playing a Led Zeppelin song in the basement. And in this basement of a family friend, there was a drum kit. And my dad sat me down and he plopped me on it. And I started keeping up with the beat. And my dad kind of like looked like, whoa, like you're actually keeping the beat. And from there, it was, the rest is history. I played drums for forever, ever since 5, 6 years old.
Right. So you were more of a drummer. Did he ever plop the guitar in your hands, or were you more drawn to the drums?
Definitely drums. Definitely drums. In my later years, I picked up the guitar, and self-taught, um, myself, but definitely, definitely drums. I was all about it, even all through high school and outside of high school. When I moved to New York, to live with him for a while, just to kind of, because I was with my mom, basically my whole life, and wanted to pursue music. So I said, what's better than New York City? So I moved to Long Island because we were about a 40-minute commute to the city, and yeah, I know, in and out of multiple bands, being a drummer and touring and playing some pretty significant shows as openers, and a lot of cool stories and experience that I got from all of that.
And you say your dad never pushed you into music at all, but do you think that you sort of gravitated towards a career in music to sort of build that connection with your dad? Was that sort of how you had a connection with him in that way?
Yeah, I think that was one of our most strongest bonds, other than being just close, as a family. But we definitely bonded over that a lot. I looked up to him, musically a lot, and asked for his advice. And I was definitely more on the rebellious side as my early adult years, 18, 19. I didn't always like what I heard, but he was just speaking from experience. And man, do I appreciate that more than ever now. And he was always right, for most things. But yeah, I mean, it was, uh, definitely a bond we had, and I would always be excited to show him our newest song, and would love to hear what he had to say, and then he'd show me his stuff, and it was great. And even just going to concerts together, that was just always something we shared, and playing gigs. He would be in a cover band gigging around, and I'd be a guest drummer for a couple of songs, and that would be our way of bonding. Like some go fishing or some go on a hike, and that was our little tradition.
And what age were you when you were gigging with him?
The first time I ever appeared on a stage with him was, I think I was like 8 years old, 8, 9 years old, and I got up for the very last song, and they had just played 3 sets at this place called Singleton's, on Long Island, and like 3 hours worth of stuff, and they had like 2 breaks in between the sets. And I got on stage. I get on stage and I play this song like Louie Louie, or uh, a Beatles song, and like just blew the house down. Like everyone was cheering, standing up. It was like nothing they did mattered, just that last song, because I was so young, and at the time, was impressive for my age. It's this little boy gets on stage, and they're kind of like, oh, they think nothing of it. But I definitely could play, and that's I think that's where I really, um, knew drumming and being a drummer was what I was meant to do. I was good at it, and I kept going, and my dad never pushed me. It was me that wanted to, and he just provided, unlimited support for it. So I'm grateful and thankful for that.
Do you remember what age you were when you actually started maybe listening to him a bit? Like you say, in your rebellious stage, maybe you didn't listen. Do you remember when you started to say, oh, yeah, maybe he actually knows what he's talking about, and maybe I should listen?
Yeah, definitely. 23, maybe 24 years old. Just knowing or realizing I wasn't making any money, and this wasn't a realistic, uh, way of living. And at the time anyway, it wasn't going to be a career, and I was trying and trying, and I really I had to grow up and put on my big boy pants, and I was like, hey, I got to do something serious. I got to get a real job. I got to make money. I have to put some money away. How am I going to live like this? And he kind of looked at me, and he was like, I told you. He's like, he's like, whenever I would play, he goes, I always had a job, and I always, and from there it was just a domino effect. I mean, everything just fell in line. So
And when was Dress to Impress? When was that in your life?
that was my second band
Was it in
ever.
high school?
No, no. So that was my second real band, where we were playing shows, rehearsing, recording, putting out, music, selling music.
It almost sounds like a boy band, but because you had the two in the middle was an actual two, that
Yes. Oh God. Oh man, I know. It was it was boy bandish. I mean, we were really dressing the part too. And no pun intended. It's like, from the super skinny jeans to the like spiked up hair, and the low cut shirts. I mean, we were definitely trying to look the part and fit into the scene of that time, which was like Warp Tour, and like I'm trying to think of bands that would like All Time Low, like just the straightened hair, like dyed hair, and the wristband, like the rubber wristbands from like your like people like clothing lines and stuff. It was oh man. I look back sometimes, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Oh, you got to
Yeah,
make those mistakes, right?
you gotta, yeah.
So all the way along, you've had some day jobs, obviously, to pay bills, but have you always been in a band? Has there been a stretch where you weren't in a band?
Yeah, from when I left New York, it was that uh, when I came to and realized I'm like I need to do something. I need to grow up. It started with leaving my most recent band, which was Boundary Lines, which is how I met Ryan. And um, I left New York and I came back to the Boston area. And I really didn't do much with music. I mean, I've always listened to music, that never stopped, but playing, I really didn't do anything. And I was depressed here and there. I missed it. I missed playing shows. I missed being in a band. But I would say from 2016-ish to the beginning of 2019, it was it was just a hiatus. Um, nothing, you know, nothing band wise.
So then coming into thinking about starting Quiet Like a Thief, were you really focused on a career band rather than just going out to play music and get stuck in that cycle again?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as I said before, I think both Ryan and I's experience um, through numerous bands and touring, and all the mistakes we made and the issues we ran into, and from the fights we've had with other bandmates, and even things we've just disagreed on or whatever we've learned from. I think we really built the foundation, for the band that we've always wanted, and we haven't run into any issues, and we have the same goals for this band, and I think it has a lot of potential. And I know I've said it before, and a lot of bands, say that too. Oh yeah, this is the one, and it's hard not to when you're feeling it. But just from how we've been doing it, it's completely different from anything else we've ever done structurally, and all the experience we have that we've now channeled into this band. I really think we have a shot to at least get in front of a large audience and build a substantial fan base, this year.
And the fact you made it through 2020 and still continue to be a band is a little incredible because you formed, like you say, at the end of 2019, and then 2020, all of a sudden everything closes down. So that one, as a band, as a new band who's trying to develop themselves, it could just be like, okay, what are we going to do? We can't do anything, so we might as well just go our separate ways. And then the second thing that happens is your dad passes away, and like what were you going through in that time and how did you make it through it?
It was a complete shock, first of all, and then just just the tragedy. I mean, he was still young. I mean, he was 65, and I mean, he was still very young. I mean, considering he didn't even, and he certainly didn't look 65, and he lost a lot of weight because the Riot Act, which was this revival, it was him and another guitarist who took his place. They were like the two like original guitar players of Riot, and he came out with Riot Act. So it was the two guitarists, and then they had their, they had friends and fill in for the other roles, drums and bass. So he wanted to look good. He wanted to get in shape, and uh, come March, he was supposed to go to Greece and play like a 7-day tour thing, play at least like 4 or 5 shows, and they were so excited and everything. And then COVID hits, and he cancels the trip. And I remember calling him, and I could just tell. I was like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, Alex," he's like, I'm so upset." He goes, I'm writing this email as we speak to the promoter that to cancel." I was like, I don't want to do it, but the guys are nervous, they're scared, they don't want to go out of the country, they don't want to get stuck internationally if they shut down the borders. So long story short, they don't go, and they want to be safe. And what happens? My dad catches COVID, and within, I don't know, a week and a half, that was it. It was done. It was kind of it was very ironic, to say the least. Stay home to be safe from COVID, and he gets COVID. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And um, that definitely, to answer your question, that definitely put a halt on things. I was ready to do Quiet Like a Thief, and then this happened. So we were already on a hiatus, and this just extended it. And it wasn't until, like Ryan came came to me and said, "Hey, we should do this song and video for my dad." We really got back into it. But um, I don't know. Sometimes I don't really know how I got through it. Some people break down and never the same again. Some people just, they lose it. They feel like they can't live life without a loved one, a family member, or significant other. And fortunately, I cope with it differently than others. I guess I would cope with it better than others. And although it was probably the most difficult situation I will ever face in my life, I hung through. I really, you know, stuck in there, hung in there, and music helped. Music is helping. It has helped, and you know, I couldn't be more passionate for music right now than I ever have been.
So when Ryan came to you with the idea of writing the song, how long was that after your dad had passed, and what was your initial feeling on it?
I was really upset. I mean,
Did you want to do it?
oh yeah, oh yeah, I definitely wanted to do it. It was it was something that had to be done, but it was almost like, wow, like I can't believe I'm actually doing this. Like I'm only 28, and here I am, about to write a song, and we're going to shoot a music video soon for my dad who's no longer here. So uh, at first I was all about the idea, and then once I kind of sat down and I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm like, wow, like I just couldn't believe it. And it was really tough, really, really was tough. And lyrically, really tough. I mean, it's just, I said, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it from the bottom of my heart. And I just need to be fully emotion, full emotions, and raw when going into this. And then I think, I think it worked well. It's a depressing story, and it's unfortunate, but I think it touched a lot of people, and even if they didn't, someone lost someone not to COVID, it was still a way to cope with loss. And that was probably one of the best sources of feedback that I ever received, that we ever received, was when someone said, "Hey, I can relate, or this really helped me, with the loss I'm going through." And then I was just like, wow, like, this is why I've always done music. This is why I want to continue doing music. And it's people, or it's fans like that personally reach out to say, your song means a lot to them.
So is there a line within the song that really gets you when you listen back to it? Because I'll tell you mine. When I listen to it, it's the line, "I got a call before the sunrise, knew it wasn't good as the tears filled up my eyes. The doctor told me that your heart was failing. The thought of losing you was such a crippling feeling." Like that, when I listen to the song, that just jumps out at me and just gets me for whatever reason. So is there a line within it for you that really gets you when you listen back?
Yeah, there is, and that one I would say would probably come in second. Um, I really wouldn't wish that phone call upon anyone. Um, Horrible, horrible phone call to get, and it was like 6 in the morning, 6:20 in the morning. And uh, you know, when a hospital calls you that early, it's not good. But I would have to say, all I ever wanted was for you to go home. I said goodbye through a cell phone, um, because that's all I ever wanted, and I know he just wanted to go home. And he texted me before going into ICU, and he said, "I just want to let you know that I love you very, very much, and I hope to see you very, very soon. I'm working on it." And at the time, I didn't want to accept it, but I think back on it now, and even months after, and he knew. He knew. He knew he was going to go, and it's still. It's weird. I'm getting chills just right now, just thinking about it. But that was his kind of, that was it for me. That I didn't want to accept it at the time, but I did. So that's where the lyrics come from. And because I couldn't see him, and I couldn't go to the hospital, and I was living in another state. It was like, like I was freaking out. Like, how is he doing? Like, who's there with him? Is he being taken care of? Is he being attended to properly? And when I got that phone call, from the lyrics that stick out to you, the nurse said, "Listen, I know what you're going through. I have a loss as well. Um, do you want to FaceTime with him while he's still alive?" And I said, "Yeah." I mean, this was it. I mean, this was like heart wrenching stuff. I mean, this was the last time I was ever going to see my father alive, breathing. So she called me on FaceTime, and I broke down. I mean, I was a mess, and he was in a coma. He was in like a permanent coma. But I think he heard me. I'm sure he heard my voice. They always say, when you're in a coma like that, your brain is still working, you're still functioning. And I hope he heard me. I think he did. And I said goodbye to him, and that was it. That was that was it. And ended the FaceTime, and that was the last time. About 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, because didn't want them to resuscitate. So I said, I don't want my dad suffering anymore, and I had to make the call. So that's where the lyrics come from. You know, I just wanted them to go home, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. So
And what did it mean when the song was finished? Did you find it added some closure?
yes, it did. It was the only closure anyone really got. And because he passed away, right when it was just becoming a thing, and New York was becoming a hotspot, he didn't have a wake, he didn't have a funeral, and we had a ceremony on Zoom, just as we're doing right now. And he deserves so much more than that. And obviously, if COVID wasn't a thing, he'd still be here. But it is what it is. And I said this was second to best. And I think a lot of people found some comfort in it, and I certainly have. And it's a music video that I'll have forever, and I can cherish forever. And it's a song. It's music, and that's probably one of the strongest bonds I had with my dad.
And what did it mean to have the guitar there in the video?
Oh man, that thing has been played all over the country and internationally, and such an iconic piece for my dad and anyone who knows him and is a fan of him and has been following him. I mean, that's him. That's his guitar. So when I say I felt like he was gonna walk out from the back, I mean the whole band did. It was just, and the way they did it, they had the haze going, the fog machine, and the spotlight going. I mean, it was surreal. I mean, he was there, and I know he was with me the entire music shoot, the video shoot.
So was that almost like having a funeral then?
Yes. Yep. It's weird actually. I've never considered it that way, and I think you said it perfectly. It was the funeral he deserved. Yeah, it was like paying respects to him in a great way. So that's awesome.
And it's funny because you say he never, pushed you into music. He supported you along the way, but now going into Quiet Like a Thief, in death, he has supported your career because he allowed you to write this song and allowed you to lift this band up to where it is, right? In the last couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and I think, the band was grateful to be a part of something so memorable and so special. And, I know, they've reminded me numerous times, that they were thankful and grateful that I wanted them to be a part of such a beautiful tribute like that. And I think that kind of stays now with them. It really makes Quiet Like a Thief special, and that'll always be like their first memory of how the band, as you said, has been uplifted. And now it's kind of like, all right, we have risen with this situation, and it's got us to where we are. And I feel like we're just only gonna go further and higher.
And what are the next steps for you guys over the next year?
Yeah, really exciting stuff. I can't wait. Just nicer weather to begin with, but come spring, we're releasing a debut EP. It's going to be 6 songs. It'll include LAK and Windowpane, which we just dropped a little over like a week and a half ago, not past Friday, but the Friday before. And we have 4 new songs coming, and all of which have been produced, mixed, and mastered by Alan Day of 4 Years Strong. Awesome guy, just really wholesome dude, and it's been really great so far. And with all things considered, with COVID, it's been a smooth process, and we'll definitely be coming out with probably one more single off the EP before we drop it. But we schedule it, we plan on it to be like late spring, and we'll definitely have a couple new music videos coming out for the summer. And we just want to have fun with it. We hope we can build a solid fan base and just do what we love, and hope we get as many people to come along for the ride with us as we can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining us and telling your story. And if you could get through what you have gotten through over the past year, then it just shows the trajectory that this band could have once things start to clear up and once things start to go back to normal. I mean, yeah, if you got through what you got through last year, then the sky's the limit for you guys, I think.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that, and I think you're right. It definitely we have a story to tell, and I think that's gonna put us further than other artists, and I think or other bands, and I think it's gonna make us stand out. And it's unique. It's a unique situation. So
Yeah.
I have to agree with you on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat and, being so honest and open and telling your story. I know it's probably not easy rehashing everything and reliving it, but we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course, and thank you for having me, and definitely hope to return soon. It was fun. All
Okay.
right, take
Thanks so
care.
much. Okay. You too.
Have a good one.
Thank you guys so much for listening once again. And thank you to Alex for joining us to share his very emotional and inspiring story. Now, please be sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. And we will see you next time on The Music Made Me.